On today's show, the Cavs begin their longest road trip of the year on Friday night as they take on the Phoenix Suns in Phoenix. It is the first of 5 games on the West Coast that are going to span 11 days. So I brought in Benjamin Garcia from Locked On Suns to just check in on how our old friend Jordan Ott's doing and what's really changed with the Suns since the last time these two teams met last month. That's all straight ahead on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everybody, my name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and you're making another edition of Locked On Cavs, your first listen of the day. You can find this show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the thumbs up button and the notification bell as we get started here on YouTube, and make sure you're subscribed wherever else you might be listening to the show. It's because of people like you that the Locked On Podcast Network is now the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. And today's edition of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. On today's show, Benjamin Garcia from Locked On Suns stops by. We talk about everything that's going on with the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker not going to play in the game on Friday because of a sprained ankle that he suffered a week ago. Jalen Green, his status in question. We recorded this on Tuesday. Don't know if he's playing or not yet. Obviously, time will tell, as he's been dealing with a hamstring injury. When the Suns were in Cleveland earlier this year, the Cavs got one of their more impressive wins of the season. This would be a win on Friday night for the Cavs. If they find a way to get it done, that would continue some positive momentum that the team has built really over the past month or so. So without anything else from me, here's my conversation with Benjamin Garcia. Joining us for the second and final time this regular season is Benjamin Garcia over from the Benjamin Garcia Show and Locked On Phoenix Suns to talk about the second of 3 West Coast games this week that the Cavs have. They take on the Los Angeles Lakers at home on Wednesday before heading on out to Phoenix on Friday. And the Suns are going to be a little bit of a different team than the last time when Phoenix was in Cleveland at the end of December. Devin Booker has an ankle injury. Jalen Green still dealing with some hamstring stuff. Ben, just as we get started here, what's the latest from an injury perspective as we record this on Tuesday afternoon with those two guys?
Well, Devin Booker's not going to play. Like, that's not going to happen. Devin Booker is going to be out at least a week with the ankle injury, which is always so funny because ankle injuries are, I said this on the show, I get made fun of by my wife because I roll my ankle just going on walks with her at this point at my age. Like, they always look worse than most of the time they are. And Booker's ankle bone, whatever that is, that bone that sticks out at the bottom of your leg, was touching the ground. Like, it looked bad, but it looks like he's only going to be out a week. Luckily for you guys, that means he's probably not going to play against Cleveland Cavaliers, or that means definitely he's not going to play against Cleveland Cavaliers. However, what I will say is I would be shocked if Jalen Green doesn't play. I don't think Green plays tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. We are, recording this on Tuesday, and then they've got a back-to-back with the Pistons and the Cavs. And it feels like they're not going to have him play both of those, and they'll have him come back against the Cavs. He'll probably start because there'll be no Devin Booker. He'll be on a minutes restriction. And for a team that really needs some sort of offensive production, I'm not sure if anyone watched the game on Sunday night. They shot 30% from the field and 20% from 3 against a good defensive team in the Miami Heat, but I mean, no NBA team should be shooting 37% from the floor and 20% from 3. So they've got to find other ways to get guys involved. And most importantly, they need Jalen Green back. But I would be shocked if Green doesn't play on Friday, I believe it is, against the Cleveland Cavaliers.
So how do they survive offensively without Devin Booker for at least the next week and maybe a little bit longer than that? Like, what does their formula need to look like? And they're not going to be this elite level offense without Devin Booker. Nobody's expecting that. That's just unrealistic. But how can they be a passable offense without him?
Well, to be fair, whenever people say like, oh, they're not going to be very good. Yeah, it's kind of a big if they don't have their all NBA caliber player and Devin Booker on the floor. But the biggest issue is the Suns don't play with a lot of pace. They're like bottom 5 in the NBA in pace. And that's because their half court offense, when everyone is healthy or mostly healthy, is actually pretty good. But when you take away their best not only shot creator, but playmaker in Devin Booker, everyone, like, they don't have wide open Grace now for a three anymore because they're not, you don't have to double Devin Booker. They're not going to double Dylan Brooks. And so they've got to play with more pace because anytime they get in the half court offense and they don't have their two best shot creators or really any athleticism on the court when Jalen Green isn't there, teams can just kind of play man on man, force teams to beat you because when Jordan Goodwin has a hand in his face shooting from three, that's probably not going to be as successful for when he's wide open from three because Devin Booker's got two guys on him. I think the biggest thing is they've got to play through Mark Williams a little bit more. They don't do that. They've kind of phased him out of the offense for some reason in favor of Oso Ighodaro. I'm not saying that Mark Williams isn't getting as much run as Oso, but Oso's getting much more recently that they've just kind of phased out Mark Williams. This team shoots a bunch of threes. It's something I've talked about with you last time. They want to get up 43s a night, but it kind of goes hand in hand with the what do they have to do to be a competent offense? Maybe we don't get up 43 pointers a night. Maybe we get up 33 and make 12, 13 of them and then kick the ball down to the low post and Mark Williams. Because I feel like with his ability down low, I think he's shooting like 68% at the rim this year. If you have guys coming in down low on Mark Williams because they know they've got to double him, even though Evan Mobley's a really good defender, that will create open shots. And the other thing is just like Jordan Knott's just kind of got to be a little bit better about getting the team to play with a little bit more pace and more creative in the half-court offense where they play a little bit random to get the ball to Grace Noun, but run a set for him. Let him see the ball go through the basket. The other night, Grace Noun was 1 for 10 from three, and I had someone in the media row go, come on, man, you just missed another three. You've missed 9 of those. You're 1 for 10 tonight. You got to know to kick the ball. And I'm like, not really, because there's no Devin Booker or Jalen Green on the floor. I kind of want Grayson Allen shooting it if Jordan Goodwin, it's either Jordan Goodwin or Grayson Allen. Like, I'd rather have the guy that's a career like 41% three-point shooter to shoot it. So that's kind of the issue right now. And like the Suns just got to do that, man. They got to play a little bit more down low, swing the ball out a little bit, where Sunday night felt less organic about getting up all those three-point shots. It felt forced. So that's where I'd go with that.
With Booker out and Jalen Green even, potentially out on Tuesday, potentially out on Thursday, like playing one of Thursday or Friday too. And not that Jalen Green has had this huge impact on the Suns this season because he's for the most part been unavailable and expecting this Phoenix offense to take a dip. Is there any concern that maybe slowing down offensively, not in terms of pace, but just like in terms of production and going from a top half of the league offense to maybe a bottom third of the league offense without Booker, is there concern that could impact who they are defensively, which has been really good so far this year?
No, not really. This team is really aggressive. The one thing that I've said about the Suns was when Jalen Green and Devin Booker went out, the thing that they have this year that they didn't have last year, because there's actual leadership. There isn't one guy on the floor making sure no one blames him for anything. Kevin Durant, for those of you who don't know, that's just the Kevin Durant thing. It's
that's who you're talking about.
Never anything's his fault, but they have an identity and a culture now that is so set on the defensive side of the ball where, the Miami Heat didn't shoot particularly well against the Suns. They kept them to, I think it was 111 points, which is fairly fine in this version of the NBA. The Suns can still defend. In fact, they might actually be a little bit better defensively if you insert like Ryan Dunn playing more minutes, or they get a little bit bigger off the bench with Oso rather than Jalen Green and Devin Booker, who Devin Booker's been a pretty good defender this year, but Jalen Green, TBD on that one. Defensively, that's not really the problem for them. They'll still hold teams. Dylan Brooks is a great defender. Ryan Dunn's a great defender. Mark Williams has been awesome this year in terms of a defender. They have that to fall back on, that if they can just get some sort of shot creation, and it doesn't need to be from one guy. It can be a collaborative effort between a couple of different guys. They can win these games. But the games that they could have won, winning 115, 111 earlier in the year, it's probably going to need to come down to 108, 104 type of games for them to win these ones when they don't have Booker or Green. They've got to get a couple more buckets, and they've got to be able to get a couple of more stops. And the other thing is, like, dude, they just got to limit the turnovers. Suns are a really bad assist to turnover ratio team, like bottom 5 in the NBA. They've got to be better about turning over the basketball. And when they make teams turn over the ball, make them pay with points off turnovers.
More with Ben in just a second, but first, today's show is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. And that's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. You can pull up the Gametime app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and you can have tickets locked in within minutes. You can see what you're going to pay up front because the all-in pricing that Gametime has, there's not going to be surprise fees at checkout. We've all been there before, right? You think you're going to pay one price and then boom, you get to the end and it's a totally different price. That's not an experience that anyone wants to deal with, and Gametime doesn't do it that way. Plus, you can see the view from your seat before buying to help make your decision even easier. They've got great last-minute options too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices as the game grows closer to tip-off. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON, that is LOCKEDON, for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's coming. It's close. It's finally here. The end of football season. Yes, I know maybe that doesn't sound like it should be something that's celebratory, but the Super Bowl always is something that is celebratory because we've got one final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially does come to a close. And this is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure that you're right in the middle of it with a special offer that's just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorites, the Seattle Seahawks, or riding with the underdog New England Patriots, or maybe you're building just one last same game parlay, this is the game that everybody, most people, maybe not Browns fans, have been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels like it's bigger than the one before. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. And if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets back if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. It's the last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com for more. We are now, if you're watching this on YouTube, less than a week. If you're listening to this via podcast, 10 days away from the NBA's trade deadline. That's next Thursday, February 5th. What do you expect the Suns to do, if anything, between now and then as far as a roster shakeup?
Well, you and I both possess the same amount of picks than the Phoenix Suns do. That's a little tongue-in-cheek. They've got a couple of second-round picks that they can use. For the longest time, I was, beating the table for trading one guy in Grayson Allen because the Suns have legitimately six good guards. I was like, trade him, find a bigger player like a power forward, or what am I saying? A four, get someone in here to rebound the ball a little bit better, play a little bit better defensively, help them out with that, and add some pressure to the low post, which the Suns don't really do this year. I'm talking about like a guy like Obi Toppin, even John Collins, maybe not the greatest defender, but still can do some stuff in the low post, bigger player, help them not get so dominated on offensive boards. Like those types of guys would be great. But then Jalen Green got injured again. And I'm like, okay, now you can't trade Grayson Allen because you kind of need him. So the Suns are where they are. Can they finagle Gertrude Yabusele from the Knicks and do a little swap of Yabusele and Nick Richards? That would be nice because you're getting bigger in terms of, because Nick Richards doesn't really play because he's terrible. And, one thing I say about Nick Richards is he sets a mean illegal screen. He's not really playing. He's out of the rotation. But if you can sub in Gertrude Yabusele, who would play because they need someone at the four, a little bit smaller guy, but a bigger guy who can help with the offensive rebounding, who showed the ability to shoot the three-point ball last year with the 76ers, that would be interesting. But other than that, do I want Giannis? Are they willing to take Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks for him? Something tells me probably not. I'd make the phone call, but it's probably not going to happen. So, that's kind of where I stand with the Suns, is if they do anything, it's going to be very minor, not major. And that's because of the sins of the Kevin Durant trade, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, the Rockets are actually worse this year than they were last year with Kevin Durant.
Yes, they are underachieving. I think it's fair to say, and I think it's fair to say that the Suns have beat expectations that
I would
everybody
say overachieved.
Overachieved is fair. I was going to be a little bit kinder and say they've beat what their expectations were, because I do think that they are a good team that has a lot of talent. And I think overachieved could maybe be a little demeaning at times, and I don't want to be that to the beloved Phoenix Suns. But right now they are kind of on that border between in the play-in and in the playoffs. Like they're kind of in that fight for 4, 5, 6, 7 area with like the Lakers and the Wolves, and the Golden State Warriors are kind of in that area too. What do you think at this point would be a successful season? Like, is it avoiding the play-in? Is 7 good enough? Like, what is a success for the Suns?
7 or 8. Like, I can't move the goalpost that much. And not 8. They need to be the 7 seed. They need to be hosting a play-in game. Well, they need to at least host 2 play-in games if they lost, but they need to be hosting the play-in games. They need to have 2 shots to get into the playoffs. That would be a successful season. But I think that they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to be an outright playoff team. The Lakers are terrible. At least as of recently, they're not playing well. I think the Suns are just better than the Timberwolves right now. Anthony Edwards just got injured. We'll see how that happens. The Rockets were right there with the Suns for a little bit, and then players got injured. So I think they're going to be the 6th seed in the Western Conference, and they'll play, as of right now, the Nuggets, and the Suns are probably losing 5 games, but
yeah,
they would have made it.
I don't think that series would go well for them, but I do think, not to hand out participation trophies, but I think the Suns making the playoffs this year would be a very big accomplishment and a lot of reason to feel really good about the future of that organization. And of course, friend of this show, Jordan Ott, one-time guest of Locked On Cavs. So you've got that going for you.
God, we love Jordan Ott. We love Jordan Ott here.
An awesome coach. What, as we get out of here, just like through 50 games, however many games they've played, what do you really like about Jordan?
The fact that this is the biggest thing. Last year, the Suns preached, we want to get up 43s a game. We want to be a team that shoots the ball, but and it just was so inorganic. It was so forced. Everything on offense was rushed. The offense had no direction. Where with Jordan Ott, it just feels like everyone touches the ball every possession. And I don't really think it's necessarily his scheme. He's like, yeah, we're going to run it to the low post, and we're going to throw it to the corner. Then we're going to find it at the top of the key. Like, we're not interested in that. He has instilled a confidence in these players that even Jordan Goodwin was talking about the other day on the Old Man the 3 podcast, which was a great listen, where he's like, no one told me to start shooting 3 threes a game. Or I'm sorry, 6 threes a game. Like, coaches would yell at me for that. He has instilled a confidence and a culture in this team that they just haven't had before with other coaches. And honestly, like, I don't want to throw any shade at the Cleveland Cavaliers, because truly I don't care about the Cavs in terms of they're in the Eastern Conference. But I do think it's something that the Cavs are a little bit worse this year than they were last year, and then the Suns are overachieving. There's one common denominator. Now, there's other things too. There's been injuries and things of that nature, but I think it is something. It's always a good sign for the team that gets the new coach when the other team is maybe not playing as well as they were last year. That's all. Other than that, I kind of like the Cavs. I kind of like Ohio sports. You guys are kind of like, you guys actually love your teams. Where here, it's like, a lot of times it's like, we'll love them when they're good. So I don't know.
Yeah, the fans in Cleveland certainly are ones that qualify as diehard fans. Freezing. Like, I normally, when I record podcast episodes in my apartment, I turn the heat off so that people like definitely cannot hear anything, just to minimize distractions.
Would you like to guess the high here today?
No, I don't, because it's like 5 degrees right now in Cleveland, and we got a foot of snow over the weekend. So we're going to stop talking about weather, because I don't want to hear it from you, Ben.
Wait till the summertime and it's 120 here. What do you want?
I'd rather that than what I have now. I'd rather that than what I have now.
That is true. I would agree with that.
That is what is important. But
never had to shovel out my driveway because it was too hot.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to kick you off the show now, but very much appreciate you spending some time talking about the Suns with us here, Ben.
Later, man. Go Cavs.
A big thanks to Benjamin Garcia for stopping by on today's edition of Locked On Cavs. This is a very important road trip for the Cavs, as they've got 5 games out west starting on Friday night against the Suns. They do have some advantages on it. The Suns are on the second night of a back-to-back. The Portland Trailblazers, who they play on Sunday, are getting back from an East Coast trip. The Sacramento Kings on the second night of a back-to-back. The Denver Nuggets getting back from an East Coast trip. it's an opportunity for this Cavs to continue to build on some positive momentum they've had, and it all starts on Friday in Phoenix. So as we get out of here, please do us a favor. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast, and hit the notification bell on YouTube. And I'll be back after the Cavs take on the Suns to talk more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.